When I finally escaped from high school, my mom gave me the option of either throwing a graduation party or going on a trip to somewhere I hadn't been before. And given my absolute lack of friends in high school, I decided to go on the trip. We looked at a few different places to go, but ended up settling on England. So graduation day comes around, and literally the very next day, we drive on down to the Logan International Airport at Boston and head on over to England. So first off, 6-hour flight, and I didn't sleep through really any of it. I don't know why, but I just wasn't tired. And either way, once we started getting near England, it started being light out again, despite it being about 3 in the morning in the Eastern time zone where we had left from. Anyway, the plane eventually lands, and we're in the Heathrow Airport in London. It took us at least another 2 hours, if not more, to get through security because coming from the US, we weren't able to use the European Union fast track through there, and we had to answer all sorts of questions, what our purpose in England was and everything, all that stuff. At one point, we also had to go through a customs thing, but we went through the nothing to declare line because we didn't have anything to declare, and it was just completely empty, which was a little bit odd and freaked my mom out. But we finally get out of the airport after however many hours of travel between driving to Boston, getting on the airplane, and actually flying to England and getting through security. And before we had even left from the US, we had decided that the best and probably easiest and quickest way to get to our hotel from the airport would be to take the tube. Now, if you don't know, the tube is like a British subway system in London. It's just your average metro system, really. So we find the tube station that's at the Heathrow Airport in London, and we take this elevator down, and we go downstairs, and at this point my mom's already got like a tick going on because she's worried about the thing back at the customs where there wasn't actually anybody there. But tube starts moving, and she calms down a little bit, and we're finally on our way into like actual central London. And I'm looking at this little map in the tube, and it's telling me how there's, about probably like 8 stops or something along those lines. It was under 10 between the airport and the stop we needed to get off at. So the train's just scooting along, and then we get to a stop, and it just doesn't keep moving. The train just sits in the station for a while, and my mind is already getting blown by, constant British accents and just how similar but different everything is from the US and everything. And we end up hearing an announcement over the speaker that says something about they can't move on to the next station right now because there's some sort of issue at the next station. If I remember right, my mom pulled aside one of the guys who worked for the metro system and asked what was going on, and he said something about some issue, like a mechanical issue with the train at the next station that was preventing us from moving to it. And the simple fact of the matter was, it was going to be at least a few hours before this train was going to start moving again. So we either had the option of sit in the station and wait for not even a known number of hours until this next train gets fixed and we can move on again, or figure out another way to get into central London. So somehow I convinced my mom that it would be a better idea for us to get off the train and go look for a different way into central London, which I don't know how I managed to do that because at this point she's still like twitching about the thing from the customs at the airport. But we leave the train and we head into the station, and there's this dude trying to show people where to go on bus maps. My mom tries asking him like how to get to the street that our hotel is on, and he turns to us and he goes, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is my first day here." At this point, my mom and I had been awake for at least 22 hours, I think, between all the traveling we had to do. And not only that, the tube decides to break down, and the guy at the station, it's his first day at that location, so he doesn't actually know any of the routes too well. And now I figured we were already inside of like the city of London. So I figure, hey, let's just go outside and see if we can catch a cab or probably just walk there. It couldn't be that far. And oh boy, was I wrong. We walk outside of this tube station, and we are on the outskirts of London. I look down the street, and there's like a butcher shop and stuff. It looked like the suburbs. We were nowhere near the actual city of London. And my mom got this look on her face, probably about the same expression as somebody who was just vacationing in Hawaii and woke up in the Arctic would have. And at this point, she just pretty much loses it, because we've got our luggage, we're not anywhere near the hotel, we're in a whole nother country, we're in a whole nother continent at this point, and she is just like, had it. And no cabbies around or anything, because we're not in like central London, we're on the very outskirts of London. And meanwhile, my mind is blown because we just exited this tube station into like a whole nother world. There's cars driving on the other sides of the streets. There's people with other accents. Everything's spelled, correctly. And out of the corner of my mom's eye, she sees this little place for mini cabs, which are like, they're taxis, but they're not the actual like Black London cabs. They're like a private company sort of thing. And we go in there, and we do manage to get a cab to our hotel, and we end up sharing it with like this German guy who was really friendly at first until we couldn't find our hotel and then got pretty angry. And this very nice British man who was shoved in the back of a sedan with my mom and I and kept talking about how the tube probably broke down because everything was broken since Brexit happened. But we finally made it to the hotel, and I had already been awake for at least 24 hours at this point, so I just passed out for until the afternoon pretty much. And the rest of the trip was awesome. We got to see so many cool places and try all sorts of new restaurants and stuff like that. But that is the beginning of the story and how my mom and I managed to get stuck outside of London on our very first trip to England.